Oh, hey, we're getting unwhelmed.
Welcome to the Free Friday Unwhelminar. I usually start with a quick introduction to Unwhelm Coaching and the unwhelming practice or process, but today I'm going to refer you back to our website and to our previous Unwhelminar introducing the process, so you can walk through that process, because I want to use up a lot of this hour for juicy conversation. I also want to include at the beginning of this particular session a trigger warning, because we are going to be talking about wounds and pain. And if this is a tough subject for you, or if you are feeling something deeply or freshly, then please feel free to either hop out or to listen later with support, listen with a friend, have a Zoom party, or just reach out. For this particular session, you may want to grab a pen and some paper. This is not a homework assignment. It's not a requirement, but it may be helpful to you as things are coming up to have a place to jot them down. And the physical act of writing them down can also be part of your healing. We will be recording this session, obviously. It is being broadcast on Facebook Live, and it will be rebroadcast available on YouTube and on Facebook and on podcast. But please know that today's focus will be healing, and we will be talking about solutions and focusing on positive, while also acknowledging how we got here and what our feelings are and what we can do about it. So with that, I'd like to start with a grounding, as we do every time. So I'm going to ask you to make sure that you are in a comfortable place, sitting or standing or reclining, doesn't matter, just so that you are comfortable and connected to the earth somehow. This is your chance, if you're not on camera, to loosen your jeans, unbutton that top button, undo your bra, whatever it takes to be physically comfortable. Please feel free to close your eyes or to direct your gaze softly somewhere in your environment. And with that, I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs all the way to your diaphragm, and release. And again, through your nose, inhale, and exhale on. One more big inhale, and release on a sigh. As your breathing returns to normal, I want you to do a quick body scan and be aware of where you find tightness or tension. Be aware of anything that's pinching or uncomfortable. You don't have to do anything to change it, just notice. Continue your regular breathing and invite some extra light and space and breath into any place in your body where you feel physical sensation that is uncomfortable or unwelcome. I invite you to imagine yourself as a conduit. Imagine the top of your head open to the universe, to your sisters far and near, to all the love that's available to you. Imagine it as a bright or a soft color, and just pouring in, cascading into you. With every breath, feel that love, that light filling you physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And just marinate in that. Just know without a doubt that you are loved. And imagine that you have more love and light than you can possibly ever need. And imagine that it is flowing out of you into the world, to your sisters, to those who love us, to those who have hurt us, to those we have hurt. We are a conduit for that light and love and healing. I invite you to anchor that with another big breath in and out. And at any point, today or in the future, that you need to access that light and love, know that you can do that with a single breath in and out, and that this is always here for you. At any point during our conversation today that you need to access this, simply do so with your breath. And with one more breath, when you're ready, you can open your eyes and join us back in this space. Thank you. Today, we are going to be talking about sister wounds. At Unwhelm Coaching, we are tired of inflicting and receiving sister wounds, and we will not do that any longer. We are here from the ground up, from our souls out, to reject the conditions that create and allow sister wounds. And we are here instead to embrace and create spaces that prevent them and heal them. Today, a healer that is so close to my heart is our very special guest star. I told her it's kind of like when 50 Cent was in the movie Spy. That's how special she is. I'm not going to ask her to sing or dance or rap, but I mean, she can. Again, let me refer you to interpretive dance as an acceptable form of expression. Today, Elise Padilla will be walking us through sister wound journey, and we both realize that we wish we had days and days to talk about this. Probably this is just sister wounds part 1, because this is a thing that comes up over and over and over. Elise has, for me personally, allowed me to express the pain and embrace the healing of my own sister wounds. And she is a light worker who heals people around her simply by being her. Elise, thank you for joining us today. She is also #1 badass Unwhelm coach. And we are incredibly fortunate to have her today.
Hold the applause, hold the applause.
Put her
Thank you.
Venmo and her Patreon in chat later.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing this space with me. When I brought this subject to you and said this is something that's on my heart for us to bring to the people that we serve, it felt so timely in such a chaotic time of change and transformation, of knowing that in this transformation, we can become bigger and better and greater in all things that we do. And it's by acknowledging past hurts and past maladaptive behaviors and saying, no more. It's today that I change. So coming into today, I am so flippin' excited. I've been working tirelessly to bring information and to search my soul. I put on my blue lapis today over my throat chakra, so I cannot be held accountable for any truth that comes through, because I asked Spirit to guide me, and it's going to give me the words needed. So I'm just really excited to be here with you, who is an amazing sister and supporting me in all of these new adventures that I'm on.
Thank you, Elise. This is my favorite love fest every week. Unwhelminars are my favorite thing. I get to hang out with the coolest people, and the coolest people hang out with us. Makes me really happy. So Elise, I'd like to start out with just a question. What is a sister wound? It sounds a little strange if you're not familiar with the terminology. And this is a place that might be uncomfortable for people who are joining us, thinking that they're going to get business coaching and trying to figure out, how does this qualify as business help?
Sister wounds are not always when your sister is helping you put on makeup in middle school and she pokes you in the eye with the mascara wand. That can be considered a sister wound. We've had those. But in coming here today, a sister wound is really the discussion of the manifestation of women living in a patriarchal society. Being in this society, we have been taught that it is okay, and it's something we must do, to find competition amongst each other, to use unhealthy coping mechanisms to survive, and to move through these things that we haven't processed, and to put that hurt onto other women in an attempt to make ourselves feel better, with this terrible idea that we need to stifle one another's light in order for us to shine brighter. And so a sister wound is these behaviors that we inflict upon ourselves and each other that come from a place of hurt, that have come from generational traumas, that we now get the opportunity to break the chains of, to move forward and say, I will no longer wound my sisters. And by doing that, I'll apologize and acknowledge that I know I participated in creating sister wounds. But I also acknowledge that I am here to apologize profusely for them, because when we know better, we do better. And now it's about creating this space of healing and love so that we can all grow and we can all shine so much brighter.
Thank you. I want to point out that this is partly a generational issue that we may be in the process of resolving as a society, because for so long, women who got ahead in business did so by behaving like a man. And instead of adjectives like ambitious, goal-oriented, relentless pursuit of success. These are phrases and words that are used to describe men in business. And women who behave exactly the same way are called bitch, and they are greedy, and they're overly ambitious, and they are ball breakers. Take your pick. I do believe that we are embracing a better way of doing business together as women, and we are embracing ways of maintaining those pieces of our identity that we identify as feminine or as womanly or soft. And we're recognizing that they are not less than or less effective, but instead that they are our superpower and our strength. And it is our hope that certainly mine, and I know at Unwhelm Coaching, our hope is that we're breaking this cycle and that the next generation is just calling bullshit, frankly. Can you talk a little bit about how does it manifest? So we talk about a sister wound as a condition of the patriarchal society and of capitalism. This is where we take a brief detour into sociology and we talk about the intersection of patriarchy and aggressive late stage capitalism, but that's probably a different TED Talk. But can you talk about some specific ways that we might have experienced a sister wound without even realizing maybe that that's what it was?
Absolutely. This is where it gets a little choppy, because even to this day, I'm dealing with sister wounds as they come up. And so being able to pick them as examples helps me come through this and process this, because it can come in so many ways. It can come in the form of jealousy, of judgment. We always see, when you post anything online, my first fear is, what are people going to say? Are they going to say I'm being too much? That the red lipstick doesn't look good? That my salt and pepper hair should be colored? Like, all of these judgments come forward that I've already placed on myself because I have fear that women are going to place them on me. There's also the sister wound of exclusion, not only in middle school when you don't get to sit at the cool table, but when people are doing things, planning parties, when you're not invited to the baby shower, when you don't get included to play cornhole, when the board is set up right next to your desk.
Yeah.
And so it's the exclusion tactics that women use to kind of as a power struggle to push each other away. There's gossip, the chisme, and participating in that, whether it's just listening, whether it's reading People magazine to hear how the celebrities have fallen from grace, but the talking about each other for the sake of finding faults, the unhealthy conflict. I specify unhealthy conflict because I am a true believer that conflict can be the healthiest form of communication, that we find issue with the task, the situation, not with the individual. And it's about utilizing our healthy conflict resolution that we come to an agreement and find vulnerability in the space of understanding each other. But when we find conflict through passive aggressive behaviors, through gossip, through talking about each other behind the backs, behind social media posts that we all know what they mean, but you're not pointing somebody out exclusively. But all of those behaviors are built in creating a sense of competition where no competition should lie. It's this belief that we have to outshine each other. And I hold it so closely in remembrance that when you use a candle to light another candle, it doesn't diminish the light of the initial candle, right? It just makes the room brighter. And so that's what I always say is that's who I am, is I stand here in the darkness holding my candle for any woman who needs to lend off of my flame to build her light back, because the room is going to get so much brighter with that collective light coming together. And so it's understanding these things that we do in a patriarchal society that causes these hurts to one another in an attempt to push each other down. And it's because in a patriarchal society, women as a collective hold so much power that will break down, right, the patriarchy and those things. And that's what we're talking about doing, is rising now, because empowered women empower women. And there's a lot of fear in that to those who aren't us.
Yeah, I do want to take a moment. I'm going to ask our participants in the meeting today to think about a time when another woman created pain for you. This doesn't mean that they did something to you. It just means that some action that they took created distance instead of closeness and connection. Because what we're really all as humans longing for is connection. And anything that decreases that connection or severs it creates pain and creates longing and creates trauma. So I want to, while our participants are thinking about this, and I wonder if you would mind using your reaction button to raise your hand so I can call on anyone who'd like to share. But I'd like to share just very briefly a thing that happened to me. And that is that I was contracted to do some specific work for an organization. And I had a very close friend and ally, I thought, in the executive director. I fulfilled what I thought were the terms of this contract, and I went above and beyond because hello, codependence. But we'll talk about that again at another Unwhelminar. But I really felt like I had really done a bang up job. And this particular person felt like there was a piece or two or three that led to cascade failure that should have been my job. They were not outlined in the contract. They were never discussed, but I took the fall for it. She blamed me very personally. And when I came back to her to kind of clear the air and do have an open and honest conversation about what happened and how to change it and do it better next time, what I got instead was a very personal email back that was loaded with blame and anger and hurt. And it shook me because I thought we had a good relationship, that we would be working through conflict, as you say, Elise. And instead, what I got was absolute severance of that connection. And aside from business, it was really painful for me to see that everything I had done prior to that was wiped out. My dad used to say, one aw shit wipes out 100 attaboys. So no matter how many attagirls I'd gotten, this one particular experience for her wiped out all the good that I had done. And to this day, when I think about that, I have a physical sensation that makes me really uncomfortable, and I have to shy away from that. And it definitely impacts the way that I do business.
So let me reframe that and say, what does society gain when we come together as a collective? I have been an amazing benefactor of an incredible collective of women who have helped me in the deepest, darkest times where I've questioned myself, who have told me, no, this is your calling, stand up and do it. Speak your truth. You know that this is wrong and it bothers you so much because it goes against who you are morally and what your values stand for. And there are other women who aren't as strong and capable to speak up and say it. So do it for the collective. And so when we think about the power that we harness together as women, that can be a lot. When we can tear down constructs that no longer serve us and systems that no longer serve us, not only because we are intellectuals, but also because we're intuitive. Women are so much more empathetic and have an emotional understanding of reasons behind things and how repercussions can be received for people, that when we come together as a collective powerhouse, things change, systems change. The patriarchy crumbles. And we're seeing that now as women are shaking up the system and saying no more. We will not stand by any longer. And think of the things like the witch trials in Salem. What was that? That was the breaking down of a collective of women. It was through gossip and through reputation and through physical harm and death that they broke down this collective of women who then became frightened and separated themselves. And so when we come together and we empower each other, and I make you feel like you can do, when I support you in feeling like you can take over the world, what's to stop you? And then when you have Kelly who's on the line, when we have Susie, when we have Heidi and we have Brenda, that's times 6. of Katie looking back behind her and seeing the tribe behind her and saying, I have a little bit less fear of failure and way much more opportunity for success and less fear of success, because together we can do this. And it's the analogy of the elephants that you use all of the time that I find so much beauty, is when we're at our weakest, we have a collective of women standing around, propping us up, holding us up with their strength that they have to make sure that we can make it through. That just one more night you lean against me and I'll be here to support you. Because what's the song, Lean on Me, right? Because I know that I'm going to be a friend and support you, because I know that one day I'll need a friend. And when I know that I don't have to do this alone, I no longer have fear of breaking down systems that oppress me.
Yes, thank you. I think it's worth noting that any system that persists in society, whether it's formal or informal, exists to serve a portion of that society. So when we talk about the patriarchy, we're talking about the fact that business originated in the United States in the hands of white, wealthy, land-owning, often titled men. All of the systems that exist today were created and perpetuated by that particular group, excuse me, which means that the act of creating a diaspora, of dispersing a collective of women, serves to make sure that men in power stay in power. Men in wealth stay in wealth. I'd like to call out some things that are in the chat right now. Heidi mentioned the way that she feels when this happened is she feels hurt and betrayal, and she questions her own worth. And you touched on that, Elise, that it makes you second guess yourself. Mm-hmm. To paraphrase Reddit, you often, because women are societally trained from birth to accept responsibility and shame and blame, we say, what did I do? I had a conversation with one of my beloved sisters the other day where she was describing a really tense situation at work. And she was saying, I need to know what I did to create this unsafe space that people can't tell me what they're thinking. And I was sort of rocked. I said, I sure appreciate you willing to dive in and take some ownership. And you exist and are operating within a system and a culture that values separation and dishonesty and does not value openness and trust and transparency. So how could you possibly have created this? It doesn't work like that. I also really appreciate Susie calling out mean girl coworkers. And you also touched on this. Ooh, when my kids were little, there was a group of moms who was like the cool moms. And oh my God, I was sometimes included and sometimes not. And I just felt like I was right back at that goddamn middle school lunchroom every time. But I mean, what do I do, right? Susie, I see your hand is up. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Yeah, mean girl coworkers. I've always kind of assumed it's rooted in their, unhealed toxic, whatever their unhealed trauma is, right? Yeah. And just not having the appropriate tools. And so then I've also think that a lot of the meanest girls are younger than me, and therefore kind of, the age dynamic of what we all think we know, how much we all know when we're young, there's no telling us nothing. And so that is, I've always assumed it has more to do with just their level of development than any kind of patriarchal society. But I guess that's true, isn't it? That's all I want to say.
Well, Susie, that's an incredibly gracious point of view, to allow grace for someone's stage of development rather than absolving them entirely of responsibility. But that frame that you've brought up really shifts the view to having an opportunity to be a mentor and a support and a help. That's an incredibly powerfully reframed point of view, to say this is because this is where this particular person is in that stage of development, which then the next question could be, how can I support their development? Or how do I protect myself? Because I can't possibly overstate how important and appropriate it is to protect yourself from that vibe, that energy, that that pain. Oh man, if we could talk for another 6 or 8 hours about the patriarchy and how this happened. Elise and I both have a sociology background, and Elise has a master's in social work, for God's sake. She knows exactly how this happened and how we got here. But I mean, we only have an hour, so we don't have a 3 year master's program. Though, if we want to, create that, that's fine with me too. I'm fine with that. Elisa, I wonder if you can talk for a little bit about something that you mentioned when you sent me some notes. You said one of the pieces that's really important for you is to call in your sister circle. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today if it wasn't for my sister circle. And it became readily apparent to me that I've had these women walk beside me on different paths on my journey, and I hadn't quite realized it or called to that power in a very long time. And having lost that piece of myself, I kind of lost my way. And it all kind of came to a clear understanding for me when I was having a Reiki treatment with a great friend of mine who was practicing the craft and asked if she could do it for me to kind of see how it was working. And so we were going through the treatment, and at the end, she talked to me about the overwhelm and the stress and letting these things go, right? Yes, I know this, but unless you have a magic wand, I don't know what I'm going to do about it. But she says, the best way to work through this is, have you called on your sisters? And I was like, I have one sister. And I could call on her, but then I'd have to buy her lunch. So I don't know how that's going to go. And she says, no, your sister's around you. There are so many women, getting a little misty, that there are so many women here that have your best interest at heart, and you haven't called on them to support you in this time. And that really settled deep down in me. And she told me that's where a lot of the hurt and a lot of the energy was getting blocked, was I was trying to do this on my own. And so my homework after that became, where have my sisters gone? How have I lost touch with them? And in a sense, lost touch with myself. And so it goes back to thinking from as far back as I can remember, as the struggles happened, who were the women that walked with me? I had an amazing friend. We had our first babies together. And Juliet walked me through the chaos of having a brand new baby. It's like they gave this little thing to me and then walked me out of the hospital with no instruction. What was I going to do with this little thing? This little girl of all things, that's heavy. And she was my sister in that journey of walking through this time that I know I couldn't have done it by myself. She sat with my baby when I ran out of formula and had to run to Walmart at 3:00 in the morning. And so she was there in that piece of the journey. And so I called on her and just asked her, when can we get together again? I've missed you so much and I need to hear from you. I have the sister who helped me in transition for my business. And I started a nonprofit and brought her along with me. And I knew that with her power, I could do so many amazing things. And she walked an incredible journey with me for 8 years of developing an amazing nonprofit, of going back to school and still managing a family, and always having that sister to laugh with. And we would make dinner. I would make dinner and invite her and the kids over. She would then take the next time and she would make dinner. I would sit with the kids out in the main area at school while she went to class, and vice versa. This is the power of the women who have supported me in so many ways that I had forgotten were there at the drop of a hat. All I had to do was call. And so after that session, I really took it upon myself to say, I need to bring my sister circle back together, because these women are so incredible. And it's amazing that the universe brought them to me in each phase of my life that I needed them. Whether it was my finding myself when I first started college, the one friend who was nice to me and reached out to me and gave me directions. She has been a lifelong friend. I have now known her longer than I've not known her. I've known her majority of my life, and she will always be there. And I've been there to walk with her through some journeys. And calling on those women and understanding the power that they hold and the space that they keep for me, that I can come and ask them questions and question myself and be totally vulnerable, and to know that they come with the best interest at heart, that they always want to see me succeed. And when I am at my worst and I am beating myself up, I have Brenda there to say, sister, this happens to all of us and it does not define you. Don't make this part of your identity. And that is so powerful, because no matter how many times I tell myself that, until I have this amazing woman that I look up to tell me those things, then it really resonates and becomes powerful. And so it's knowing who our sister circle is and how we can engage them. It's the sister who took me to Dillard's and forced me to buy red lipstick, even though it was outside of my total comfort zone and it freaked me out and made me cringe. And she told me, you're going to wear it around the house until you're comfortable. And I did. And now I played on it on Facebook yesterday. I told him I am never not wearing it. This is the new Elise. Like, you see me with my red lips everywhere because I blossomed in a way that I didn't realize my confidence needed me to grow. But had Lily not been there in that time, I would have gone back to my nudes or to my chapstick and not had the red lipstick. And so that's the sister circle and the power of those women that we keep around us, and about maintaining those communications and those relationships.
Thank you. I want to call out that you look amaze balls, the salt and pepper, the red lips. Hell yes, we're here for that. Susie, I'd love to hear from you.
I was just going to say, listening to Elise's story about red lipstick reminded me of the time one of my girlfriends, and that was a game changer.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? The simplest things. I want to actually just really briefly tell the elephant story that Elise was talking about. And of course, you know, I own all the words, so I have written about this. Be happy to put that in the chat and you can go read that later. But you may notice that elephants are everywhere in my life. Currently this morning, because of this topic, I'm wearing elephant earrings. I have my elephant necklace. These were both purchased for me by my actual blood sister. I have elephants tattooed on this arm. I have elephants tattooed on this arm. I have, you may have noticed the Unwhelminar as our logo and our mascot. There are some really specific reasons that are really intentional why the elephant shows up for us in our lives over and over and over. Elephants are, of course, my favorite animal, and you know, that is fine. And I sometimes feel like it's really important for us to ask each other, what's your favorite animal or what's your favorite dinosaur? Because those are really telling pieces of a conversation. But my favorite thing about elephants is the way that they are structured and the way that elephants give birth. Elephants are a matriarchal society. So the oldest, generally, female elephants head up the herd. They teach the younger elephants, the mamas and the aunties and the sisters, how to be mama elephants. They raise the young, and when the boys get to be teenagers, they go off on their own or pair up with other boy teenagers. I don't know if any of this is resonating for any of you who have boy teenagers in your house, but I will tell you that boy teenagers going and being by themselves is really important. But when an elephant is ready to give birth, the other female members of the herd stand in a circle around her. Elephants can be in labor for weeks. I know that women, humans, feel like labor is weeks, but elephants literally are in labor for weeks, days and weeks. Elephants stand in a circle around a laboring elephant, and they kick up dust with their feet, and with their trunks they throw dust in the air to mask the scent of a laboring elephant from predators and to keep her safe in her vulnerable state. When she is laboring and she gets tired, because we do, this is where I might cry, the other elephants will literally turn their backs to her and press against her with their sides and their back, so that she does not have to stand on her own. She is literally held up by her sisters, aunties, and mamas. She gives birth, and again, the female elephants kick up dust and throw dust with their trunks to mask the scent of the afterbirth and the newborn baby from predators. They protect the newborn baby's skin with dust, and when that baby stands up, which is immediately, the baby has tusks, trunks, legs, and sides to pull up on and to lean against to gain that baby's strength. As the female elephant who has given birth is recovering and her calf begins to nurse, the other female elephants will once again surround her to keep her and the baby safe. When I started Unwhelm Coaching, the idea was that what if as women, we lived our whole lives that way, knowing that when we are at our weakest and most vulnerable, And when we are least able to care for ourselves, what if we didn't have to? What if we were surrounded by women who supported us in every way? What would that look like? And the answer is, Elise said, is unstoppable. Unstoppable. The patriarchy, these systems, and I don't mean men or not all men or this one guy, I mean the system of patriarchy thrives when women are disconnected and apathetic and isolated and fearful and angry. Because when we are not those things, when we are connected and collaborating and doing so with vulnerability and from the heart, we do not take shit. There is nothing that gets in our way. That red lipstick, that girl who takes you shopping, that's your lifeline. And so when we behave like elephants, we're going to get t-shirts that say be like elephants. When we behave that way and we offer that support, we find that we are in a circle and that our sides, our flanks, our front, our rear, we are surrounded by that kind of support. And there is nothing you can't do in that position, in that place. So be like elephants. Thanks. Whew, I get a little bit excited about this. So y'all go today and find a picture of an elephant and be an elephant to someone else.
Kelly says in the chat, they also have incredible intuition like women. So when we open ourselves up to it, and that's the key, is opening ourselves up to that intuition and learning to trust yourself because your gut knows. Get out of here a lot of times and stick down here in this gut.
Elisa, if you don't already embrace a sister circle, or if you have become some alienated, or if you're isolated. For instance, when I was younger, I had this mindset that I had to make my husband first. And so I would, default to his schedule and I would default to his needs. I always went on vacations that they wanted to go on. I subjugated my female friendships to the primary relationship of my husband. Spoiler alert, when my husband, Joe, and I got married, I said to him, please understand, sisters before misters. My girls are always going to come first because they saved my ass. Wasn't you? He doesn't take that personally, that's good. We know that he's been raised as a feminist. But if you have let your sister circle languish, or if you are unsure about who is your sister circle, how do you take those steps to overcome that?
A couple of the first steps would be finding yourself, your authenticity. What are things that you're happiest doing? I found some of my sisters by doing things that brought joy to my heart. I love to give to the community. My husband he's been in sports his entire life, and I never have been. I told him, but nonprofit boards are my team sport. Like, that's where I get to be MVP. That's where we come together as a team. And so when I have nothing else and I tend to lose myself and forget what it is that makes me me, I join something. I volunteer. I sort food at Roadrunner Food Bank, just because that is a part of me that I'm able to express, and then to find like-minded individuals who are expressing themselves in that way. It also gives you the opportunity to offer your vulnerability to people. Who can you reach out to? Who in the past have you lost contact with that you can reach out and say, hey, I know it's been a while. I just wanted to connect and see how you are. Interested in dinner soon. Would you like to go walk the dogs? What can we do together, because I miss you and I miss your spirit? And that can be tough because, as Brenda mentioned in the comments, she says you get worried about bothering a busy sister. And we all carry that. But I promise you, I've never been bothered when a sister has called me, especially when a sister has called me in need. I will give everything for her because I hold that space so sacred. But finding people that you can connect with in common places, but also finding ways that you can connect, like in groups, community groups. There are amazing recovery groups. There are amazing places where you can get business coaching, mentoring, and support. There's Unwhelm Coaching. We have, I know, an amazing community of women come together that not only if you're looking for a sister circle, but if you're looking for a partner to work with, someone that you can trust, that you know holds values very close to what you hold, is you find a community like this, that you know these people hold these same intentions as you and hold the same open-hearted space, that you can find a graphic designer, you can find a photographer, you can find a business coach, you can find someone to help train your board of directors in all of these places. And then when you work together in those spaces, friendships develop like you wouldn't believe. I carry friends with me from every phase of my career because we've connected over work, but found so much deeper connection in the things that we've done. Working in places, I mean, a national organization that I worked remotely. I didn't see everybody in an office, but I carry Renata and Jacqueline and Sheil and Karen and Tanya with me from that place because there were tears shed, there was frustration. We had the chance to have some conflict and to talk through it and to hold each other closely and to know those spaces that women are all around you is just about making yourself available to know that you are so worthy of their love and you're worthy of giving it to them because they may need you just as much. And so finding that connection in whichever ways that you can, if you have a spiritual group that you attend, or you want to seek one out, there are many places that you can go and reach out, but don't be afraid. Take down those walls and shut up that little inner asshole who says nobody wants to hang out with you. Oh, well, but they already have friends and you're not going to be included. They don't want you there. Tell her, my sister calls hers La Llorona, the crying woman. And she'll say, Llorona, shut up. And that's what we do is we say, no, I can't listen to you right now. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make myself available to find that connection that I so desperately need.
Thank you. When I moved from Washington State to Santa Fe, I had been here all of once, maybe twice, and specifically for the purpose of moving here. So I came here without knowing a single person. I missed my girlfriends because they had sustained and supported me, but they were all remote. So two things happened when COVID hit. I was immediately an extrovert who planned to go volunteer in the community and get a job or attend classes in person, was suddenly stuck at home. And I live with two introverts. So the beginning of the pandemic was real hard on me. But I did realize that other women were feeling the same. And I set up Zoom meetings because they're not the greatest. If this meeting were in person, it would be a different space altogether and maybe better, but maybe not, because maybe we wouldn't be able to all be here. So I reached out and said, hey, do you want to have lunch with me over Zoom? And I got turned down exactly 0 times and was able to rekindle those friendships by reaching out in vulnerability. The other thing I did that scared the shit out of me, which may be hard for people who know me to believe because I'm so extroverted, and because I believe that mostly there's no such thing as strangers, there's just friends we don't have yet. When I felt a connection or when I admired a woman, I would reach out and say, hey, we don't know each other very well, and this may seem strange, but do you want to go have coffee? Do you want to go get food? I am a firm believer that food is used for all purposes. Nutrition, celebration, mourning, whatever you need, food is there. And again, I got turned down exactly 0 times, and I met 3 of my absolute strongest supporters. To get hype women, be a hype woman. To gain vulnerable friends, open yourself to vulnerability. Start with safety. Start with someone you know and love, reconnect, and branch out from there. I'd love to open to chat, or if anybody wants to chime in verbally to talk about a time that you reached out or a way that you used to reach out to connect with other women and how that worked. Once again, you get 1 deep breath. That's all I can manage. I think it's telling that there's not folks jumping in to chat or speak. So I would like to issue a challenge to all of you listening. This is what I love. Heidi says, I showed up here. Whoop, whoop. And Kelly says she's a deep introvert, so doing an activity together works. Lots of good conversations among the trees. Oh gosh, yeah. Be like a toddler, because toddlers don't actually play together. They do what's called parallel play. They play, but just kind of next to each other. Go for a walk. Physical activity is always really great. Or make a phone call while you're taking a walk so that you have something to focus on and some movement that gets you, what Elise always tells me, and gets you out of the head. It's fantastic. I'd like to give a little bit of time now to how do we heal those sister wounds. So we move forward in community and in connection with other women, but there's still that pain and we carry that. So how do we address it, uncover it, and move forward in healing?
So one of the ways that I've done it to move through and to find forgiveness and peace and to help the wounds and to keep from replicating this cycle that is hurting so many women is to find myself. Because when I found myself and I became comfortable in my skin, in who Elise was and what she could offer, I found myself more able to give that strength to women, because I no longer had this internal conflict of being jealous or feeling like I was in competition, because I was okay with myself. I knew what my personal and professional strategy were, how they aligned. I knew what success meant to me. I knew what my values were and what made me me. That if nobody else laughs at my corny jokes, at least I laugh. I think I'm hilarious.
You are.
And by being comfortable with myself, it allowed me to be more comfortable with others, which then I stopped taking on and I stopped seeing sister wounds sometimes that weren't intentionally there, and being able to change my perspective. And because I was healing myself internally, I was able to not take offense to things that people didn't always intend to do. Or when there was intentional sister wounding happening, I was able to step away and say, that's something going on with her in her space. I would love to be there with her in that. But if I'm not, then I'm going to step away and know that it's not because of me, that she's dealing with something and we can be okay in that space. If she's meant to come back to me, she will come back to me. But I no longer have to stay in that place because I've set a boundary and an expectation of knowing what I deserve in a relationship, in a friendship, in companionship. And that helped me get comfortable in that space.
Yeah. I love this. Susie in the chat says, what other people think of you is none of your business. More t-shirts. God, we're going to have so many t-shirts.
I know.
I would like to just quickly walk through some steps that I take and have taken to really further some healing for myself. And those of you listening and those of you here today can take what works for you out of this. We will have, when we are done today, we will be posting this video on YouTube and transcribing it and throwing up a podcast. So there'll be lots of places for you to come back to it. We will also have some downloadable resources that will help walk you through this so you don't have to take notes or remember it all. And I just, I'll kind of fly through this quickly, and I do feel like we could definitely have an Unwhelminar for every single step. The first thing you do, we have talked about, is you call in support. So you're going to start with your safest people, ask for help from the safest person you know. And it doesn't have to be a sister, and it doesn't have to be a single person. It can be any human that you feel a connection to. I'm going to put a pin in this for a second and remind everybody that at Unwhelm Coaching, when we use the words sister, woman, female, she, her, that refers to any human who identifies as a female or as a woman. It also refers to non-binary gender expressions and to anyone who is questioning, so that this space is open and inclusive, but the words woman, she, and her, and female refer to that collective. So you call in support. If you have a mental health provider, this is a great resource, and you can ask your mental health provider to walk through this process with you. Step 2 is to prepare. You want to make sure that you're ready for this. Don't schedule this at a time just before you have to make dinner or go get the kids, or if you're in a hurry, or the kids need something, or the dog needs to go out. Make sure that your space is ready for some sacred work. Light a fire if that's helpful, burn a candle, engage all of your senses, something to smell, something to look at, something to hear. If you're hungry, if you have other bio needs, take care of those. Start with centering and breath. We start everything at Unwhelm Coaching with grounding and breath. The next step is to acknowledge the pain, and this is where your pen and paper come in handy. You can write a letter. You can write sentences, words. You're going to write out to the people or person who caused you pain without censorship. What would you say if that person were standing, or those people were standing right in front of you, and the only reaction that they would have is soft listening? What would you say? When you're done with that, take a moment and recenter yourself in breath. Take your time, walk away if you need to, remind yourself that this level of work and forgiveness is a radical act of love, not just for others, but this is radical self-love. The next step is you bathe your words in love. Again, it's very soft and it's not something we're going to talk about as a businesswoman in a patriarchal society. But you reread those words and without judgment, you read them, and whenever you feel that physical sensation or resistance, another breath until you can simply just see them. Imagine that the person who hurt you or people who hurt you are standing there in the softest light and love that you can imagine. And then this is where you practice forgiveness. There are 3 specific practices that I'll touch on. The first is loving kindness. And this is a meditation. You can find variations of this everywhere. You can record your own so that you can hear yourself. You can listen to it. You can write it down. Mine says, it's up on my wall here, may I be free from all forms of danger. May my mind be happy and at peace. May my body be strong and resilient. May I be able to care for myself with ease, and may I be free from suffering. You start by reciting that meditation for yourself, then imagining someone you do trust and love, and then imagining that for someone who has harmed you. Another piece is what I call up in smoke. You take that letter that you've written and you tear it or cut it into pieces. And with every sentence or emotion, you place it in the fire and you watch that go up in smoke and you imagine letting it go with the smoke. And the third piece is a Hawaiian practice. And I have to just click over here so I make sure that I'm saying it correctly, and I'm probably not. It's ho'oponopono. And every time you read one of those pieces, there are 4 sentences. I am sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. Use those words on yourself or direct them to the person who has harmed you. And then step 6 is to break the cycle. This is what Elise was talking about. Refuse to participate in gossip and jealousy. Be willing to reframe someone's sister wounding as their stage of development, as Susie said, or as their own space, and be able to walk away and hold yourself intact. Call in your sister circle and reinforce that this is a place of healing and love. Those steps will be on the website so that you can go through them at your pace. I would love to hear ways that you have healed from your sister wounds. So you can hop over to the website and send us a note after you've gone through this practice. You can pop something in chat. You can send us a social message. There are a million ways we can heal and a million ways we can break this cycle. And we only get stronger as we talk about them and acknowledge them. Elise, I'd love to know your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts in all of this coming together, I think there's a great call for forgiveness, not just for others who may have hurt us, but to ourselves. Because ultimately, when we forgive, we're not releasing someone from the responsibility of the hurts that they caused, but we're releasing ourselves from holding on to that. And so in forgiveness, forgive ourselves, forgive society for becoming patriarchal, for putting us in the broken systems that we're in right now. Forgive our sisters for coming at us out of emotion and pain that they haven't learned how to sort through yet because they haven't been taught. And so forgive yourself for not having been able to speak up in times that you felt your throat constricted when out of fear or insecurity or any of those things that we hold together. But knowing that this is a chance for rebirth and transformation, that we give ourselves the opportunity now to change and to become better. And that we have to let go of what society taught us is important, of the competition, of the money, of the success in the ways that cause us to create hurt within ourselves and in each other through competition, jealousy, passive aggressive behaviors, emotional hurts, all of those things. And then also to know that we can be better, we will be better, because that's who we find in ourselves. Is that through this transformation and readjusting our alignment and what we see success being, that we now come to each other and say, I'm open to you for your transformation and to support you in that. I'm going through my own as well. Let's walk together on this journey.
Thank you. Kelly throws some props for Elise in the chat. You're rocking that red lipstick. I want to thank you, Elise, for sharing your vulnerability and your experiences and honesty with us. It's incredibly powerful to see you acknowledging the pain and embracing your healing and serving as an example for us. I am honored to have you as primary in my sister circle. I am going to take this last 30 seconds to throw my Unwhelm Coaching commercial in here. Join us every Friday for our free Friday Unwhelminars. Check out our website at unwhelmcoaching.com. At any time, you are welcome to reach out directly to Katie or Elise. Katie is Katie at unwhelmcoaching.com. Elise is ELISE at unwhelmcoaching.com. We have some exciting stuff coming up. Starting September 1st, we will really be throwing the doors open to our paid membership area, which is where we're really going to have some fun. We will have a free 1-hour coaching session as part of that one-on-one 1-hour coaching session as part of the membership. We will have a book club. We will have a group coaching call with an Ask Me Anything format. So head over to the website, check us out on our socials, check us out every Friday, new subscribe and like, and I just can never do that. Hit the link below. I don't know. I'll hire other people to do that for me. Thank you again, Elise, and the Unwhelm community. We are so glad you're here. Thanks a million, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we're getting unwhelmed. You can catch all of our recordings on our YouTube channel, which you can find in the footer of our website. Commercial over for now.